Oh, what's up, guys? Ahmed here, back with them on with Ahmed channel. Yesterday we did the world in the 1700s when I told you this whole map. This whole map. I showed you this map. I explained you this map. A mistake I did in the last video was I told that these islands, if I can mark them, yeah, I'll make a stamp on them. Yep, these islands right here. Well, I said of the British, but actually they're of the Dutch. I'm sorry for the wrong information. They are of the Dutch. So we'll do a new topic today, okay? And the name of the topic is the commercial revolution. Hear it clearly. Hear it clearly. Commercial revolution. So when we break the word, okay, let me undo the thing. Okay. When we break the word commercial and revolution and everything, wait a minute. So we go to the commercial revolution, we break the word, and we get two words, commercial and revolution. Commercial means finances, money, all that. Revolution means new ideas, new ways. So when I say that in 1700s to 1800s, specifically Western Europe is going through the commercial revolution, what do I mean by that? I mean that Western Europe is making new ways of earning money and increase and manufacturing revenue for the country. So how are they creating these new ways of earning money? Well, the biggest of them, colonization. They're doing colonization. They're making colonies right at the 1700 map of the world. You can see that the Western Europeans have started making colonies. The British have colonies in Jamaica, US, whereas the French have colonies in Canada, and they have they have some Caribbean colonies, and that capital is Saint Domingue. They have some South American, colonies. Then we go to Spanish. So the Spanish have all of modern day Mexico. They have Venezuela, they have Colombia, and they have Peru. Whereas Portuguese have Brazil and some islands near Europe. And the Dutch have Cape Colony. They have colonies in South America. And they have a lot of colonies in the Oceania continent. So they're doing a lot of colonization. How does this colonization give them profits? How? Well, for that we have to understand a term known as fiscal military state. Fiscal military state, when we talk about a fiscal military state, it does not have a definite definition. It doesn't have a definition. We can understand a fiscal military state by a table, which I made myself. I know it looks absolutely terrible, but I made this design myself. I'm not a professional designer of these type of tables, but let's concentrate on what we have here. So from this first looks, you might think, oh, this is an absolute complex diagram. We can never understand this. Go step by step. If we look at the king has courtiers, people in the court. The king also has an army, and he also has the navy. And what is written right here? Right here. What is written right here? Selects and gives money to what? Companies. Means if we annotate this in a more easier way, or we elaborate this in a more easier way, we can say the king has courtiers, he has an army, he has a navy. He selects some companies, he selects some unique companies that earn a lot of profits and gives them more money. Like the East India Company. It was a very famous company in England, but the king selected it as a good colonizing company and lended them some money. The king gave the East India Company some money. So let's now see what else the company has. The company that is going for some colonization, whose job is to colonize a new area that's not been discovered. The company has generals because they're gonna go in war. Okay, this was wrong. Army, they have an army. I'll just write here, I'll just write here. Okay, I can't write right now, but army. Wait for 2 minutes, I'll come. We're back. We're back. Okay. So the company has generals because it needs to also do some military work. It has an army. It also has an army. And it also has a navy. Means army and navy are in both company and king. The only difference is the general and courtier, which is not that big of a difference. So what does the company do for the king? Well, the company establishes a trade monopoly with the king, with the state. So example again, East India Company. They went into US and made a colony in US. There in US, with the help of British, they were able to establish good rule. What they did, they forced people to do work in mines to get steel, coal, and etc. Bought it for like, and they sold all those goods they got from the mines to the state in such a way that the state and also the company got profit. Right now, you won't understand this, right? I might have to tell you by something else. So, what is the commercial revolution? It is when a company is made a colonizing company. Is when a company is converted into a colonizing company by the help of the government or maybe the king, because back then governments weren't that many. So with the help of the king, they get some money, they get an army, and as a colonizing company, they figure out an area in the world which hasn't been discovered, an area in the world that hasn't been discovered, an area in the world that hasn't been discovered, and make a colony there, and use the resources of that colony and sell them to the state in such a way the state gets profit. Example, the French East India Company. The French East India Company was the company that went to India. The French East India Company made some colonies on, if I can, them right here. They made some colonies here. You might not be able to see it. Maybe if I zoom in, you might be able to see it. I want to try. Okay, now look. This colony. Okay, I'm going to undo this. And I'm going to. Now, look at this French port. So the French East India Company has made a colony known as Pondicherry. What? Pondicherry. They made a port known as Pondicherry. Now, what does the French East India Company do here? Well, the French East India Company buys spices. They buy spices and then sell them to France in such a way that France, now hear this, in such a way that France and the company gets profit. In such a way that the company and France also gets profit. Okay, so you understand how this colonization order works, It's a good thing you understood because it's very much necessary. So remember one thing, whenever a revolution happens or any event in history happens, there's always problems created by it. There are always problems created by any historic event. So what were the problems of the commercial revolution? What is the problem in companies doing oceanic voyages? They are doing oceanic voyages and making a colony and selling the resources of that colony to the state in such a way that the state and the colony gets profit. What is the problem in all of this? Like, this is just profit. What is the problem? Well, the problem is the requirements. As a trading company, you need a lot of things. What do you need? You need money. You need money. Well, of course, you need money to establish ruling and everything. You're gonna need a lot of things. You're gonna do a lot of wars as well. So you're gonna do a lot of wars as well. So you're gonna need all that money. Then comes ships. You need a lot of ships because you're gonna export all the goods of that colony to the state. Example, the British East India Company. They will need a lot of ships to transport the goods of India or US to UK. So you see, protection. Any other colonial empire, like protection in such a way that any other colonial empire can attack you, or any other empire of that colony can attack you, or some tribes can attack you. You need protection from the tribes. You need protection from any empires that are in that colony, and you also need protection against colonial empires. And how I'll tell you the solution of all these problems, but let's just discuss with the problems first. Labor. What you're gonna do? You're gonna sell the natural resources of the colony to the state. Well, where are you gonna get the natural resources? Through mines, right? All the natural resources almost at that time of the colony were in mines. So to do the work in the mines, which is like digging and extracting, for all of those purposes, you need labor. Probably you didn't understand what I'm saying. So text to extract, you get natural resources of a colony through mines. The companies will need labor, and not the labor that can just say, okay, I worked for 6 hours and I'm done. No, they need labor that works for almost 24 hours and doesn't complain about it. Last problem, I think it is. I think it's the last problem. Let me go back to mouse. Yeah, it was the last problem. Administration, or we can say governance. Well, if you're gonna establish rule in that colony, you're gonna need a government. You're gonna need a parliament. You will need all those things. Well, that's a problem. Why? There's a company. The company is of around 900 men, 800 men, staff. They have to stay in the state, but they also have to be in the colony. So it's hard to make an administrative government. So simply, it's hard to make a government. Simply, it's very, very hard to make a government. So I'm not bringing the solution of all the issues, but let's go on to the solution. Money. Example, the East India Company. East Indian Company needs some money, you know. So as a colonizing company, the British, the New Britain has taken the responsibility to lend money to the East India Company if it runs out of money. What do I mean? If East India Company has no money, it is broke, then New Britain will give it money. So the money problem is solved through New Britain. Ships. Well, you do the same thing. Whenever the companies take a colony, right? So they should command the people of that colony to make more and more ships. Whereas the example of this is again the US. The British enforced the US people to make ships. Every colonized company does that. Tells the people of the colony that they have to make more ships. And they also make more ships through their own engineers, because every company also has engineers. And they also get a lot of ships through the state. A lot of ships come from the state. Like a lot of ships were given by New Britain to the East India Company. Protection. Well, the king always gives them an army. The king always, I can't pronounce. The king always gives an army to the company. Yes, we know that. But you need more protection. You can't just rely on that army to protect you all the time. So what did the colonized companies do? Well, they did one simple system. They took the men of that colony and imposed them to, or we can say, forced them to join the army. So now the army of that company is made up of the people of that colony. Like we can say the British, when they were in US, their main army was mainly consisted of so many many US natives. So you see, much of the army of the company was the people of the colony. Like literally 70% of the army of the company was made up of the people of the colony they captured, and 30% from their own men. Labor. Whoa, labor. Okay. Labor. For labor is just one simple word: slave trade. I told you I would explain you in this lecture. For this, we need to take our mouse and we need to tell you how this works. So for this, I might have to zoom in a lot. Onto the here. Around here, Yep. So, what is Africa's function? Now, let me explain you slave trade. If I can make a drawing, I would do that. Don't worry, Don't worry. So, there's probably going to be a slave king of the tribe of Sigu, Karta, Futatoro, Kong. They probably have kings, right? And probably these kings would invade each other's empires, each other's tribes, right? The leaders of these tribes would probably invade the neighboring tribes and take what? Prisoners. Now, what did the Europeans give the offer? Now the British, not the British, the West Europeans have some trading outpost, and the function of the trading outpost is one, and that is, I'll tell you right now. Okay. The function of the trading outpost is slave trade. How? The slave king of the tribe has invaded and has taken prisoners. The West European outpost, or we can say the West European slave companies, tell the African kings that you give your prisoners to us as, now hear what I'm saying. You give your prisoners to us as slaves, and we in return give you money and guns. Slaves. So the king has to do nothing with the prisoners. Can you just tell any reason why would the king keep prisoners, right? So what did the African tribes king do? What did the African tribes king do? They just gave the prisoners to the European outpost as slaves and got money. These European outposts, I'm gonna do this. Go back to mouse. Go down. These slaves were mainly, now I'm telling you mainly these were this. These slaves were mainly sent to North America. You know what I'm saying? They were mainly sent to North America, South America, the Caribbean. That's where they were sent. Yes, these small lands, and very small amount, like when I'm saying when I'm saying small, I mean very small. Means some amount of slaves. Some, I said, okay, you know what I'm saying? Some amount of slaves were sent to these colonies of India, these small trading outposts in India, to go out there and do some trade and do labor work. So you see, the function of African people has become literal labor work. You take the prisoners of the African king, put them as slaves, send them. Now, here what I'm saying the next step. Send them to European colonies, Western European colonies, and make them do 24/7, make them do 24/7 labor work. Why but the Africans? Why the Africans? Biggest question. Why the Africans? Well, because no one cares about them. Why? Back in 1700, in Europe, blacks are considered bad. They're considered evil. So these Western European states like France, England, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, they don't give a care that they're black. They don't give a care to that. They don't consider that, okay, you know, for humanity, we're gonna leave these blacks. No. They said that they're gonna take these blacks and send them to these colonies. So you see why the African people were picked? Because blacks were considered evil. They didn't have too much respect in the world, actually. No, they had no respect in the world. Millions, and when I say millions, I mean millions of slaves, millions of African black slaves were in North America, the Caribbean, and South America. So you see, the labor problem is solved through slaves. An administration problem, take the nobility of that colony, take the nobility of that colony and put them as the governors. Why? Because we don't have enough people now. Our people are too busy to, and they don't have time to handle the administration. You know what? Put the nobles. So put the so put the nobles of the colony as the government, as the government offices, as the governors, as the parliament. So for, as the parliament, elect all the, put all the noble people of the colony as parliament, governor generals, governors, etc. So you see, all 5 problems are solved. Now remember this as well. In every revolution, after all the solutions, another situation is made. So what is the situation made in here? Well, the situation made in here is, wait, I don't have it. I would explain you, but I don't have it. Okay, I'll tell you anyway. The situation created by all these solutions is that later in the years, now hear me, later in the years, West Europe will get more rich than Asia, because Asia has only one trading route, one trade monopoly, or they have less trade monopolies. While the West Europeans, yeah, they're filled up with trade monopolies. They have trade monopolies in North America, they have trade monopolies in South America, they have some trade monopolies out in Asia as well somewhere. So you see, they have trade monopolies. So what happens in the future years? In the future years, West Europe gets more rich than Asia. And that's when the dark age of Asia comes. That's when the dark age of Asia comes. Why? Because they never expanded. They never thought of something like this, that, you know what, let's become a colonial empire. Whereas these states thought, and they formed it, they did colonization, and now they have multiple trade networks. So what did we learn? We learned the commercial revolution, the commercial revolution. We studied how it happened, and we studied about the problem. We studied how, like, you know, a commercial revolution is taking place. It's taken place in a fiscal military state, having this system of power. Okay, colonization takes place in fiscal, listen to me, fiscal military states. Fiscal, fiscal, fiscal military states. I'll also write it here. Fiscal military state. Colonization happened in fiscal military state, right? That you know, works on this chart of authority. Then we discussed the problems of the commercial revolution, which were 5 problems: money, a lot of ships, protection, labor, administration. We studied the solution of these problems. And then we discussed from the solutions what new situation is created. Well, the main situation created is that Europe, Western Europe specifically, Western Europe in about 1800s, or let's not specify the year. In the future months or years, West Europe will be more wealthy and more rich than Asia. Now, what are some partly situations created? Well, due to all these solutions, West European, hear what I'm saying, West European colonies are fighting each other. This is known as colonial warfare. So this is also happening. But the main thing is happening is that Europe is getting more and more wealthy. More and more, West Europe specifically again, West Europe is getting more wealthy. And in the future years, it overcome Asia in wealth. They will overcome Asia in wealth. Now, I'm just going to show you a little bit of the trend of the colonization. Now, you know, we should know that. This is the map in 1700. These are the colonies in 1700. This is America. This whole of America in 1750s, right before the 7 Years' War. You know, we can see Spanish have expanded, the Portuguese have expanded, the French in North America, and I should probably go a little slower. The British are expanding north to these parts. The French are expanding their colonies of Canada, and the Spanish are expanding in South America, and the Portuguese are expanding in Brazil. This is 1750. Let's go to the mouse. Forget this. So now I'm looking for some other map. This is a detailed map of North America in 1750s. You can see French Empire there, British Empire there. This is Latin America, we can say. This is Latin America. Hear me what I'm saying. Latin America in 1800s. The Spanish are here and they're all over South America. The Portuguese have their colony of Portugal. The French have their colonies of Caribbean, and Spanish have the colony of Cuba. Okay, Cuba. French have their the French have their colonies of South America as well. And this is the North America in 1760s. Can anybody guess what happened in 1760s? Whoever said 7 years war, you all win. This is the results of the Treaty of Paris in 1763. When the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1763, its impact on North America. Its impact on North America. Spanish have got so much more, land, and England has so, and the British have so much more land now. Look at this. This all land is of British. Whereas all this land is of Spanish. Forget that. So we discussed about South America. We discussed about North America. And this is North America in 1800. This is North America in 1800, okay? This is North America in 1800. United States after the Revolutionary War, and they have won, and hence there's a new state emerging known as the United States. This is 1803, like the Louisiana Purchase, but forget that. We're going to discuss about that later. This is the Spanish. So this is all that was happening in that region, right? So, hope you guys enjoyed. And now I'm gonna go. Our next video will be on the military revolution, which is military revolution. And after this, we're gonna talk about the fate of India and North America.